Welcome back after the break. Now for stories in detail, we will start from Britain, where Prime Minister Theresa May has said she will step down from her position on June the 7th. May broke into tears as she made the announcement at Downing Street. She was under immense pressure to resign after her reformed deal failed to win support from her cabinet. May said she hopes whoever were to take her place would deliver the people's decision on Brexit. Her former House of Commons leader resigned over the proposal put forward in the amended Brexit deal. The Tory party grandees too had told May her time at 10 Downing Street was up.
But it is now clear to me that it is in the best interests of the country for a new Prime Minister to lead that effort. So I am today announcing that I will resign as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party on Friday the 7th of June, so that a successor can be chosen. I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold. The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
For more on this, we are joined by our London correspondent, Ollie Barrett. Thank you, Ollie, for joining us. So upon this announcement of her resignation, who are the leading candidates to replace Prime Minister Theresa May?
Well, just to be clear, she's resigning as leader of her party on June the 7th. That kickstarts the leadership contest for the Conservative Party, but she will remain as Prime Minister as that leadership contest plays out. She will be Prime Minister until there is a replacement for her as leader of the Conservatives, and that replacement will then become Prime Minister. In terms of how long that takes, there are many in the Conservative Party who want to get it done by around July, but it could be difficult to do so given that there are so many people who have effectively already said that they will be running in this leadership contest. But in terms of the front runners, we have people like Dominic Raab, the former UK Brexit Secretary. We have people like Sajid Javid, the current Home Secretary, Andrea Leadsom, who quit the cabinet this week. She was leader of the Commons, ran in the previous Conservative leadership race briefly, but Boris Johnson is the favourite to be the next Conservative Party leader and therefore Prime Minister. The former Foreign Secretary, former Mayor of London, a very prominent Brexiteer voice and very popular with the Conservative Party membership, which is crucial because once the final stages of the Conservative leadership contest are reached, it's the membership who get to make the final decision.
And would a new Prime Minister stand a better chance of steering the Brexit withdrawal bill through the House of Commons?
Not necessarily. They will face many of the same challenges that Theresa May has faced. The first, of course, is the lack of a working majority in the House of Commons. Theresa May's only been able to govern along with the DUP party of Northern Ireland, which has been propping her up here in Westminster, but she hasn't been able to come up with a Brexit deal that satisfied the DUP. She hasn't been able to come up with a Brexit deal that satisfied her whole party. And even if a Brexit deal were to be cobbled together that was much more satisfactory to more people on the Conservative side, it would still be difficult to get it through the House of Commons because there are likely to be dissenting voices to almost any type of Brexit deal that is put together. So many of the same challenges will be faced by the next Conservative leader, and that's why there's continuing speculation that in the end we may have to have a UK general election to try and sort things out.
And Ollie, how do you expect the political scenario to change? Is Britain sliding towards a general elections over this issue?
Yes, it's very likely now that at some point in the not too distant future there may need to be a general election. One thing that perhaps makes that less likely is that the Conservatives, according to the polls at the moment, would do very badly. So whoever comes in as leader will want to see those polls shift before they move towards trying to persuade the House of Commons it's the right time for an election.
Right, thank you so much for your time, Ollie. That was Ollie Barrett joining us from London. Prime Minister Theresa May's new Brexit bill has been delayed. The government said the EU divorce legislation will be introduced in Parliament in early June. Prime Minister May discussed her Brexit deal with the Foreign and Interior Ministers. Earlier, Leader of the House of Commons, Andrea Leadsom, quit in protest at May's Brexit strategy. Treasury Secretary Mel Stride has replaced her. And now on to the U.S., where President Donald Trump says there is no need to deploy additional troops in the Middle East to counter Iran. Earlier, the Pentagon requested Trump to bolster forces in the region. The proposed escalation included an Air Force fighter squadron, warships, and special scouting aircraft to keep tabs on Iranian forces. But Trump said he will increase numbers only when needed.
They were behind every single, we had 14 different attacks at one point. They were behind every attack. So we'll see what happens with Iran. No, I don't think we'll need it, but if we need it, we'll be there in whatever number we need.
In related news, Iran has said it will not surrender to U.S. pressure. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani says Tehran will not give up its goals even if it is bombed. He said the country's independence would be defended if the U.S. attacked Iran. President Rouhani's comments are being made against a background of rising tensions with the U.S. The U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee has unveiled a $750 billion defense policy bill. In March, President Donald Trump requested the amount to build up the Navy and buy more planes. The bill authorizes the Pentagon to buy 94 Lockheed Martin F-35 stealth fighter jets. It also ends Turkey's partnership in the program if Ankara pursues a plan to buy a Russian missile defense system. The launching of a space force as a separate military service is also authorized by the bill. Pakistan has assured Iran of its continued efforts to reduce tensions in the region amid Tehran's ongoing spat with the U.S. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif met Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad. Zarif also met Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. Qureshi told Zarif that escalation is in no one's interest and called on all stakeholders to exercise patience and tolerance. Zarif thanked Pakistan for its efforts to establish peace in the region. Zarif is in Pakistan as part of his tour to rally regional support amid Iran's tensions with the U.S. In a related development, complying with the latest U.S. sanctions, India has ended all oil imports from Iran. New Delhi had already decreased its Iranian imports following the fresh round of U.S. sanctions. Officials declined to say if New Delhi shared President Trump's concerns about Tehran. This comes as U.S. ended a set of waivers and that allowed some of Iran's largest oil buyers to continue their purchases. India has long been Iran's second largest oil customer, with 10% of its oil from the country. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has congratulated his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi on his election victory. Prime Minister Khan said in a tweet that he looks forward to working with Modi for peace, progress and prosperity in South Asia. Modi thanked the Prime Minister for the congratulations. The Indian Prime Minister said he has always given priority to peace and development in the region. Washington has filed 17 new charges, including espionage, against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. The latest counts accuse Assange of unlawfully receiving and publishing the names of classified sources. He was previously charged with conspiring with ex-intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to access the Pentagon's network. The WikiLeaks founder now faces a total of 18 criminal counts and could face many decades in prison if convicted. He is currently serving 50-week jail sentence in the UK for jumping bail. Assange was arrested last month after Ecuadorian embassy in London withdrew his asylum. The Labour Party has trumped populists in the Dutch segment of the European parliamentary election. The EU Commissioner Frans Timmermans won a surprise victory over opinion polls' favourite Forum for Democracy.
The Netherlands EU elections result turned out to be a rude awakening for the far-right populists. Proving all opinion polls wrong, the Liberals Labour Party won the Dutch vote in the EU elections. Scoring more than 18% votes, the winner Frans Timmermans hoped for a reformed Europe.
There is a need for a different Europe, a Europe that is much more committed to combating the climate crisis, and a Europe that also sees that we, as Europeans, need to do more together in the social field.
Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte's People's Party for Freedom and Democracy came in second at 14%.
You need to stay inside the European Union in order to keep the Netherlands strong. With everything that needs to be changed, that vision led to gains for my party tonight.
Forum for Democracy of poll topping Eurosceptic Thierry Baudet finished third with only 11% of the vote. He, however, seemed happy with the EU results despite lower than anticipated vote tally.
I still think that we will be going to Brussels with a very strong delegation, with over 10% of the electorate voting for us, and we're going to proceed with our plans to build a Eurosceptic alliance in the European Union.
Baudet was earlier running neck-to-neck alongside Rutte's governing Conservatives. The Dutch vote was the first test of meaningful support for the Eurosceptic nationalist parties contesting this year's elections.
In Malawi, President Peter Mutharika has taken a lead in the country's presidential and parliamentary elections. Over 7 million Malawians voted to elect the new president, National Assembly and local government on May the 21st. With 3.6 million out of the total 6.8 votes counted, Mutharika leads with 40.44% of the vote. Opposition leader Lazarus Chakwera has secured 35.34% of votes. Deputy President Saulus Chilima follows with 18.35% of vote count. Corruption emerged as the major campaign issue as rivals accused Mutharika of plundering national wealth. 8 more civilians have been killed in the latest airstrikes launched by government forces on rebel-held areas in northwestern Syria. War monitors said over 100 combatants have been killed in fighting around the town of Kafr Nabuda since Tuesday. They said the militants have retaken most of the town captured by government forces on May the 8th. Earlier, Russia said the United States has launched a campaign to blame it for Idlib hospital strikes. The Kremlin accused the U.S. of trying to stonewall the clampdown on international terrorists in Syria. The statement comes after the U.S. accused the Russian and Syrian forces of deliberately hitting hospitals in Idlib. Meanwhile, the U.S. has called for a ceasefire in the country. It accused the Assad regime of using chemical weapons, including an alleged chlorine attack in the fighting. Washington has warned of a quick response if the charges are proven. The Arab coalition has said Saudi air defenses have destroyed a drone launched by Houthi forces and heading for Najran airport. The Houthis have stepped up missile and drone attacks on Saudi Arabia in the past 10 days. The group also claimed responsibility for last week's drone strikes on oil assets in Saudi Arabia. Israeli forces have arrested 21 Palestinians during raids across the occupied West Bank. The Palestine Prisoner Society said the Palestinians were detained in Ramallah, Kalkilia, Nablus, and Jenin. It said a minor was among those arrested. Israeli troops also ransacked the homes of Palestinians during the raids. The United Nations Organization for Palestinian Refugees has rejected a U.S. call to dismantle the agency. The UNRWA said it cannot be blamed for stalled peace efforts. Details in this report.
The United States last year cut off its $300 million annual donation to the refugee agency. UNRWA Commissioner General Pierre Krahenvold rebuffed criticism from U.S. envoy Jason Greenblatt during a visit to the Gaza Strip.
I unreservedly reject the accompanying narrative that suggests that somehow UNRWA is to blame for the continuation of the refugeehood of Palestine refugees, of their growing numbers and their growing needs.
U.S. envoy Jason Greenblatt had called for disbanding the UN agency, saying it has failed the Palestinians. The organization argues it is simply providing services until a political solution to the conflict is found.
We will not accept, I will not accept, that the integrity, legitimacy, and importance of UNRWA as an organization created by the General Assembly to serve Palestine refugees be questioned in ways that are unsubstantiated and unacceptable.
The agency is hosting a conference on June 25th to get financial support from international donors.
In Indonesia, a police official has claimed the group responsible for riots in Jakarta has links to ISIS. At least 7 people have died and more than 200 have been injured after a rally against official election results turned violent.
Hundreds of people took to the streets after the results confirmed incumbent President Joko Widodo's victory in last month's polls. They set vehicles ablaze and wreaked property in Tanah Abang district of central Jakarta. Police fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse the protesters. Police spokesman Muhammad Iqbal said the rioting was planned rather than a spontaneous outburst.
They intended to carry out jihad during protests on the 21st and 22nd. We have found strong evidence that this Garis group has been declared as ISIS supporters in Indonesia.
Meanwhile, the government has blocked access to social media in parts of Jakarta. The protest came after presidential candidate Prabowo Subianto refused to accept the results of the general elections.
Libyan strongman Khalifa Haftar has rejected a call for a ceasefire by French President Emmanuel Macron during talks in Paris. Details here.
Khalifa Haftar is leading a military offensive against the UN-recognized government in Tripoli. Haftar acknowledged the need for a political dialogue to end his standoff with Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj, but the mistrust between the two Libyan leaders is stronger than ever.
This assault, which has cost us hundreds of deaths from each side, it has no place to be. We were on the brink of resolving the crisis that our country has been experiencing for years through peaceful ways. But this assault has radically destroyed the political process.
Haftar claims he is fighting against private militias and extremist groups that are gaining influence in the capital. Earlier in Tunis, Prime Minister Sarraj said a ceasefire could not be achieved without the withdrawal of Haftar's forces.
We made a lot of sacrifices for the nation, and our main issue was to prevent the blood from flowing. After this effort, we arrived at some compromises about the institution's unification and to exclude the military solution. We ended the conflict through the elections.
Weeks of fighting around Tripoli have killed 510 people and wounded 2,467. Moreover, 75,000 people have fled their homes due to the conflict.
In the world of business, U.S. President Donald Trump has said Huawei could be part of a trade deal between Washington and Beijing. In a press briefing at the White House, Trump said the telecoms firm is very dangerous from a security standpoint, but he says if a trade agreement is reached with Beijing, Huawei can be a part of it. Trump also announced a $16 billion aid package to help farmers affected by the trade war.
And I look forward. Today I'm announcing that I have directed Secretary Perdue to provide $16 billion in assistance to America's farmers and ranchers. It all comes from China. We'll be taking in, over a period of time, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and charges to China, and our farmers will be greatly helped.
In a related development, the United States has said China presents a real risk to U.S. national security. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said he believes more American companies will cut ties with Huawei Technologies. He said Huawei is not truthful about its relationship with China's government. Meanwhile, China has told the U.S. to change its behavior if it wants to continue negotiations to end the damaging tariff war. The Commerce Ministry says the U.S. has increased the chances of a global economic recession by escalating tensions. And now bringing you stories from the world of sports, the Toronto Raptors have defeated the Milwaukee Bucks in their fifth game of the Eastern Conference Final Series. The Raptors took the series lead at 3-2 after beating the Bucks by 105 points to 99. Recovering from 2 down in the 7-match series, the Raptors have now taken a lead in the Eastern Conference Final Series. Playing at Fiserv Forum, Kawhi Leonard destroyed the Bucks defense, scoring 35 points and 7 rebounds. The substituted player, Fred VanVleet, contributed another 21 points for the Raptors. Giannis Antetokounmpo secured 30 points, but the Bucks fell 7 points short of victory. Both sides will meet each other for the 6th game on Sunday. Let's take a quick look at the weather around the globe. This is all we have for you now. Don't forget you can visit our website for details on all of our main stories. You'll find them at indus.news, or you can also choose to keep tabs on us on your social media timeline. Find us by the same name, indus.news.